Hello, dear listeners. I am happy to be returning to you after that short break while I have been traveling and integrating my arrival back to my birth country of New Zealand. And now we begin a new podcast segment called Soulful Thoughts from New Zealand. But just to let you know, the link for the podcast subscription will remain as Soulful Thoughts from Ireland, so previous subscribers can still receive their notifications. So, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome, and welcome back to those who have been here before. I am your host, Meghan, award-winning author of Feminine Courage, Meditations with Teresa of Avila, and Sacred Companions, a Sacred Community, spiritual mentor, and guide for death and dying. I have always had a deep love for mythology and always felt a knowing within my soul the absolute importance of these stories, even as a child. However, I need to qualify how I understand and relate to myth. You see, I do not experience them as mere spiritual or psychological teaching stories, or even as a means of explaining how the world and humanity came to be. Rather, I feel them as very real, energetic realities that are not only alive, but more importantly, need us to keep them alive. And not just through a retelling, but by actively entering and becoming the very energies described, or in some cases, by alchemically transforming those energies in an evolutionary manner. In essence, we become the living mythology. We are the living story of creation. Growing up in New Zealand, I was always enamored by the Maori creation myths, and so I would like to bring that forward for you today. Please know that there are many iwi, that is, tribes of Maori people in New Zealand, and each have their own rendition. This one I am to speak is one of many. I also bring forward my own interpretations, with some of them differing from tradition. But that is one of my roles here on earth. I call it moving from tradition to evolution. That is, including tradition, but always evolving in accordance with where humanity's consciousness is traveling, and allowing the myth to evolve as well. So here we go. The Maori creation story begins with nothingness. Nothingness. It is known as the long, dark night. From this nothingness, this darkness, something arises. And that is the two major Maori gods, Ranginui, the Sky Father, and Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother. Initially, these two, Earth and Sky, are joined together, and their children, all male in this telling, are born between them. For a long time, the children exist in a dark, cramped, uncomfortable space. They talk of the potential, the speck of light seen beyond. They question, what could be beyond? The brothers held a long debate, exploring how they would get out of the dark, cramped space they lived in. How might they see the world beyond the confines of their parents' embrace? One of them said, "Let's kill our parents." Another said, "Leave them be. Let us remain here." Then another brother said, "Let's separate our parents." This last suggestion of separation was seen to be a viable option. One of the brothers strongly disagreed to the separation, and others were silent. Those in favor of the separation then began to work together to plan how to do this. They tried first without success again and again, but finally it was Tane who lay on his back with his legs facing up. With total focus and strength, he pushed and pushed. Ranganui, Father Sky, and Papa Tuanuku, Mother Earth, didn't want to be separated from each other or their tamariki, their children. But Tane's fierce determination and desire to know the light beyond created the separation. Ranganui and Papa Tuanuku wept for each other as they were parted. And through the separation, the brothers then became Maori gods or guardians of particular domains, each according to their strength and character. God of the forest was given to Tane, the one who separated the parents, recognizing his strength like the trees and mountains. God of the weather was given to the one who was angry about the separation, hence the storms that arise. The gods of peaceful pursuits and the wild foods and ferns were given to the brothers who did not speak out against the separation, who were silent, even though they didn't want the separation. And another was named the god of the seas and waters. As with the separation, some went to the land, and he to the seas. And lastly, the god of earthquakes. This was the youngest brother who was still within his mother when the separation occurred. He too was angry about the separation and brought forth the trembling current that scars the earth. I find this a fascinating creation myth. Some of the brothers are for the separation, and some are against it. Some are wanting to remain in the nothingness and darkness, and some are wanting to explore the light beyond. And from their desires and emotional responses, the gods with their various strengths and abilities were born into a new world. My query becomes, today, how do these gods influence our ancestors? And how do our ancestors influence us as we unknowingly take on the same emotional responses, though in a different time and context? That is, a living mythology handed down in and through the soil and generations. I recognized and experience this firsthand in Ireland, with my ancestral memories still very alive and seeking life through me. And I also see it happening here in New Zealand. Those who are pursuing peace, those who are angry, those who are silent, those who want things to remain the same, and those who are figuring out how to live in a separate reality. In Tibetan teaching, it is spoken that the gods eventually fall from their god pedestal. Some questions for us all. What gods are we propping up that need to fall? And what gods are asking to evolve through us? Or perhaps the real question is, at what point do we become our own living mythology, our own living creation story? At what stage do the gods and humans become as one? Or even more, when do we humans evolve so as to become teachers to the gods? Interesting questions to ponder. This creation story also reminds me of Adam and Eve and the separation from paradise. I do not understand Adam and Eve as being banished, but rather sent out to explore the light beyond, their potentiality and their own separateness from the gods. That is, setting human consciousness on a grand adventure. It seems to me separation has a very real part to play in our ongoing evolution. We grow and evolve, and so we separate from a job that no longer aligns with who we are. A relationship fulfills its potential, and so we enter into separation. Thought paradigms change as we evolve. Our life is a constant flow of separation and union. Perhaps separation is not the enemy, but rather the instigator of new life. That potential the brothers could see as a speck of light. When it rains here in New Zealand, it is said that this is Ranganui's tears, crying about his separation from Papa Tuanuku. Perhaps it is time for them to be joined again, but in a wholly new way, not restoring an old form of unity, but giving rise to an evolutionary force of creation. Through each and every one of us as unified creative beings on a new earth with new stories. And so my love of mythology continues to grow. I merely follow the energy trail and see where it leads me. So please join me next time for Soulful Thoughts from New Zealand and see where that trail will lead us. Until next time, I wish for all anger in our world to lead to new life. I pray for silence to open inner doorways. And may peace inhabit every being. So please see my website, meghan.life, for classes and other podcasts you may have missed. Aroha nui, meaning much love and deep affection.